Good morning. There's only one other person here, and it's 5:30, and the table in front of me is empty. Sounds like an Edgar Allan Poe movie. Poem. And I'm gonna wait till somebody show up if they want to hear this share before we record it. So just hang in there.
Good morning.
Good morning, whoever that is listening there. I don't know where everyone is, but we'll just give it a couple minutes. Still no more people. Still on hold. Some people are showing up here. Okay, hi Naftali, Moshe. Okay, we've got some Heberman here.
Yeah,
We'll go
good
get
morning.
started. Yeah, nobody was here, and the table in front of me is empty. Okay, so let me see how to. Hello. I want to start the. Okay, Hello just walked in. Baruch Hashem. So here, my camera. Let me to start again, not to lose time. What do I press? We've been on. Leaving. I'm leaving for a moment. Are we starting? Is that what I'm doing? Leave. Okay. Okay, I'm back. All right, we're going to start. We thank Hashem for the giving us the ability to learn today, and we're learning for the neshama of neshamas of go. Help me here, Golda Zahaba Bas
Zahava Golda.
Zahaba
Bas
Golda
Baruch Binyamin.
Bas
Baruch Binyamin.
Baruch Binyamin, and Ben Siyam. What was his name? Anyone remember? Zev. Uh, Salaf. Say again. Zev Ben Sion, and where we know who that is. And any other Helakin and Shemis that are out there, we're learning. And Refuah Shalema to Gedalia Getzel, Bas, Moshe,
Gedalia gets Eliezer ben Avram.
Gedalia Getzel,
Ben Fega
Eliezer,
Tzipora.
Ben Fega Tzipara, and anybody else who needs Refuah Shalema. I don't know the names, but just thinking the names, I guess. Okay, let's get going. All right, hold on. We're at the top of Hey, Omid Aleph. At least that's where I think I got up to yesterday. Okay, let's see. First few words. Let's try and make this whole Hey, Aleph and Bays in the time period. Runia Akpe Ravina Miyaba Ruchosov. All right. So Runya had remember yesterday we did the U. All right. So here I am. I'm Runya, and I had a fence. And Ravina surrounded Runya's fence on all four sides. Now, I was thinking about it. We say that's kind of strange. Yesterday I described it, like this guy owns a land. Actually, he owned land on all four sides. So that's why he was surrounding Ravinas. And it's similar to those of us here who refer to the area we live in here in North Miami Beach as the donut hole. That there's, some of us live in unincorporated Dade County, which is in the greater North Miami Beach area. So, I mean, we could even imagine this nowadays. Anyway, Amalei, Habli Kama, the Gadre. So, Ravina says to Runya, listen, I, put up all four fences around you. All right, you owe me the cost of the fences. What he's really saying is you owe me 50% of the cost. All right. Runya refused to pay. Lo Yavle. Runya didn't give him a cent. All right. Why? Because he said, I didn't do anything, or you haven't done anything that shows that I was satisfied that you put up the fences. I mean, you decide to do it. It's not my thing. All right. Hubly, if he couldn't be so Ravina goes back to him and says, come on, Runya, don't be such a cheapskate. At least pay me 50% of the cheapest. I know I put up very fancy fences. So pay me the ones that are, half the chain link value of the fences. All right. Remember, this is the point where he's already added the fourth fence. So Runya's really got a nice enclosed property here with access. All right. So he says, at least, don't be such a cheapskate. Pay me at least 50% of the value of the cheapest fence. Runya says, no dice. I'm not paying you anything. Habliyaga Nitirusa. So he says, you know what? At least pay me what you would have paid for a watchman to watch your fence. All right. Or, or put up a security camera. I mean, I'm really doing you a service, even though it's primarily for myself, come on. So Runya lo yavle. Runya didn't give him a cent. All right. So this was deadlocked. Yamachad, Habaka, Gadar Diklay. One day, Runya was harvesting dates from his palm trees, which is what that field was. All right. Amalei Larise, Sravine said to his sharecropper, get a load of this. What up, boy? All right. Zilshkomine, Kiburadan Dahine. He says, go over to Runya's field. You see the tree that's over there. He says, and take a cluster of dates from him. Actually, I guess it would have had to been. It fell already on the floor. All right. Azolatoye, the sharecropper went to bring the dates. Rama Bekala, upon witnessing this brazen act of thievery, which is what Runya felt, Runya shouted at this sharecropper, stop, what are you doing? This is my property. Ravina thereupon confronted Runya. This was a setup. Amalei, Ravina said to Runya, in rebuking my agent, my sharecropper, you've indicated that the palm trees are very dear to you, and therefore you should be agreeable to them being protected. In other words, you're telling me I didn't do you any favor, or you don't know what you have by putting up a fence. All right, obviously, the fence does make a difference to you? What if someone else came? Lo yeh ela iza ba'alma. Even if the threat was merely a goat, goats go around, they'll eat anything they can. Milabai netirusa, wouldn't your trees not need protection? All right, or certainly your field, because I don't see how a goat's going to go up to dates, but I guess the ones that fall on the floor. Thus, you must share in the expense of the fences. So that was Ravina's claim and ploy to get Runya to agree. So what's Runya answer? Malay, Runya says, Iza biala dechluye baya. A mere goat requires only to be shouted at to be kept away. So, in other words, I don't need fence protection. If a goat shows up, that's Uriah. He says, I'll go shoo, go away, goat, and the goat will, do a 360 and a 180 and hightail out of there. Not a backflip, a 180. Ravina countered, Amale Ravina. Ravina said to Runya, Velo Gavra boy the Mechlela, but you do still need a person to stay in there and shout at him. Remember, the last request was, don't you want to pay for at least a security camera? Or in the reality case there, it was for a guard. All right, pay me at least for the watchman. Until the rubber. So they came before Rubber for a judgment. All right, they went for, like Bastin. All right, Rubber instead offered counsel. All right, so he attempted to mediate. Rubber said to Runya, he says, oh, come on. Zil pise, zil paise, b'mai de paise, pious. Go and appease Ravina with the amount for which he agreed to be appeased. All right, which was half the cost of the cheapest fence, the chain link, or at that time was made out of the palm leaves connected to poles. Since he'll accept the equivalent of, no, even less, the watchman's pay. Since he will accept the equivalent of watchman's pay, fill the obligation and pay him, half the wages. So if he got $10 an hour, so you give him $5. 10 putat, give him 5 putat an hour. But if you do not pay him at all, I'll judge you in accordance with Rav Huna's interpretation of Rabbi Yossi's ruling. This is like a mafia, you better take this deal. This is Sweet's deal, because if you don't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You'll be forced to pay half of the actual cost of the fences that Ravina erected. So that's a strong arm tactic for getting him to pay. All right. So now the Gemara gives us, that was one story. The Gemara now will give us another story between Runya and Ravina. Obviously not the best of neighbors, but then again, who said it in English literature? Fences make good neighbors. I don't remember, but someone said that. Runya Zaban Ara, the and Metzra de Ravina. Runya bought a parcel of land on the boundary adjacent to Ravina's field. Now, don't get confused. This is a separate case, because before Ravina owned all the land around Runya. Here's another one. Runya goes and he says, I'm going to buy another piece of land right adjacent to Ravina. Ravina Ravina thought to oust Runya from the field and purchase it himself. Mishum Dina the Varametra. All right, so Varametra was discussed in great detail Shavuos night by our friend who's now in Eretz Yisrael, and our lawyer, Yitzi, what's Yitzi's last name? Lebensberger. All right, I know I wasn't there. I missed that share, but I read the notes left over in the morning. What? He's my counsel. Yeah, that's he was against you. So I haven't used him yet, but he's my counsel. He's my neighbor also. All right. Mishum Dina de Bar Metra. So what is the story about a Bar Metra? Bar Metra basically refers to the neighbor's right of first refusal. So if somebody is selling a house, all right, and then his neighbors can say, look, before you go with the realtor, before you go with anybody else, we want the right to first refusal. All right. Obviously, we have to pay whatever you're asking for. But right, so that's what bar mitzvah is. So in this case, Ravina is kind of using this a little bit strongly because he basically, one second, Ravina wants that piece of land. So even though Runya just bought it, he wants to say, yeah, but I'm your neighbor, so I have right of first. It's not even for sale. But he goes, I want to buy it. All right. He says because of this rule of bar mitzvah. All right. So in other words, he basically wants to oust him from his land that he just bought and say, no, no, no. I know you bought this land, but no, you can't have it. He says, I really want it. Here's my money. It was like a preemptive attack or something. Rav Sefer dissuaded Ravina from depriving Runya, who was a poor man of the field. All right. So how did he dissuade him? You know what's nice here? That the Gemara is attempting to mediate for us, to appeal to emotions, and say in each of these cases, well, hold on here, Ravina. Let's think about this. There might be reasons why you shouldn't ask him for this money, or in this case, attempt to take the field. Amalei Rav Sephra, Berei Rav Yeva, the Ravina, so Rav Sephra, the son of Rav Yeva, said to Ravina, Amre inish inshe arba letzela. People say 4 by the hide and 4 for the hide and 4 for the tanner. So initially it sounds like, what is this, like 3 sheets to the wind, some sort of saying that really stands for something. Well, yeah, guess what? That is what it is, and the Mishnah is going to explain what that was. So explain in the first Mishnah, owners of the adjoining courtyards may compel each other to share the expense of building an intervening partition to protect their privacy, and they are therefore assumed to be partners in any wall that separates them. The following Mishnah discusses obligations created when that original wall collapses and presumptions that arise thereafter. I'm sorry, I didn't really explain that. That's now the new Mishnah. All right. When he said 4 by 4, all right, what he was saying is that, look, a shoemaker, before he's going to make any profit on his shoes, all right, is he's got to pay. Let's say he sells the shoe for $10. Before he's got to pay the tanner $4, and he's got to pay the other guy
4 for the hide.
4 for the hide just to buy it. Then he pays the tanner another $4, so he's paying 8. He's selling it for 10. This reminds me of my wife's just for the mitzvah business. I mean, not to make an advertisement, but she sells her arts and crafts so cheaply. All right. And then, people say, okay, get it even cheaper or something like that. So like, when they go to Michael's or someone, try and buy the products, they find out that it costs more sometimes to even make. But that's why it's called just for the mitzvah. I don't know. But anyway, just keep that business going, Robin. Okay. So now on the Mishnah. So that was the last thing.
Watch this year?
No, for sure not. Please do not tell my wife what I just said, because then she'll get really upset with me. All right. All right. Let me go further. Come on. So again, there's 2 people. They share a courtyard. So house number 1, house number 2. Here's the courtyard in the middle. And one of the guys goes and he builds a wall right in the center. Why? Because he wants a wall, a dividing wall. All right. So if a courtyard wall collapse, so we require the other person, I guess in this case, maybe the wall pre-existed, but either way, what the Mishnah is telling us is that when you rebuild that wall, the guy who's building it, if he wants to make a claim to the other person, and let's say he built the wall 6 amas, all right, the other person who's watching him build the wall and really doesn't want to pay $1, it's kind of like the Runya story, is being obligated by the courts to pay at least for 4 amas high. Again, not the full 4 amas. He's paying 50% of the 4 amos. So let's say 6 feet is 4 amos. That's the minimum height for a wall. But this guy built the 10 feet. His neighbor built the 10-foot wall. So the court or rabbis obligate neighbor number 2, who didn't want to pay at all, to at least pay for 3 feet worth of the wall, or half of Dalet amos. All right. Okay, so each neighbor. So actually, both neighbors have to pay at least for that. And the one who built further, well, he built further because he wanted to build further. That was his thing. Okay, my Gemara is doing that jumping thing. Okay. The Cheskas Shinasan, all right, after the wall is rebuilt, each neighbor is presumed to have contributed to the cost of construction. At Shavi Raya Shelo Nasan, until one neighbor brings proof that he did not contribute. So what if, again, we assume that as the wall was being built, both neighbor A, obviously, who was building it and paying for the supplies and everything, this and that, was requesting from neighbor B a draw, hey, give me 50% until I get to the 2 amos level, and we're even, and I'm just going to keep on going whatever I want. All right. But again, as we said, we don't obligate the neighbor number 2 from paying beyond 50% to 4 amos. Nevertheless, if one neighbor extended the height of the new wall beyond 4 amos at his own expense, and then samach lo koto achia. Oh, now this is a new case. What if after this 6 amos wall was built? All right, the other neighbor, well, we're saying he owed at least 2 amos worth of paying for the 6 amos wall. All right. But let's say we don't know if he's paid yet or not. But after he's paid for this wall, the other neighbor, meaning the one who we don't know if he's paid yet, or maybe he did pay, or this or that. But let's assume he paid the 50% of the 4 amos worth. He now says, hey, I got a great idea. The huts here, between the 2 houses, this piece of land, there's now this wall over here. I'm going to go and build a wall right next to it. You know why? I could go put a shed out there. I could later on, I'll put rafters on top, or ticky top, whatever it's called, make myself, a hutch in the back. So he builds another wall parallel to it with the intent of placing a roof over the 2 walls. So he hasn't yet put the roof on the 2 walls, but he's building the second wall. So even though he still didn't place the roof on it, we now obligate this person who's building the second wall, all right, to pay 50% of the entire first wall. Up until now, we only obligate him to pay 50% of the first wall, meaning up until Dalet amos, 50% of 6 foot or 3 feet worth, but even though the wall was, let's say, 8 feet or 10 feet. But now we see this, he's actually going and he's building another wall with the intent of totally benefiting from it so he can make a house, even though he hasn't even finished this hut yet. All right, this back house, this shed, whatever you want to call it, he hasn't put the roof on top. We still make him now give the additional 50% that he was not obligated before, when it was just solely a dividing wall built by the adjacent neighbor. Further, the builder of the parallel wall is presumed not to have contributed towards the cost of the extension. All right, not only are we obligating him to pay 50% of the additional height on the first wall, because now he's showing that he really liked that and he's going to take full advantage of it. We're assuming that he hasn't paid that because he never had to pay it to begin with. So the standing chazakah was he didn't have to pay it. He didn't pay it. Nobody pays something they don't have to pay. All right. Unless neighbor number 2 here, who's just built the second wall, comes and brings proof, either it's Adim or document, says, no, look, I actually did pay for 50% of the entire first wall, not just the 4 amas. All right, everybody with me? It's a very interesting case. Now the Gemara. So we're on still Daf Hey Amid Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. Oh, we're going to make this, yes, God willing. Amar Reish Lakish. So the Gemara is going to attempt to resolve some statements here. Okay, Amar Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, "Hakaveh is mine lechavero." All right. Let's say someone lends money to his friend, and he establishes a time for payback. He says, "Listen, I'm giving you 1,000 prutas, but you must pay me back a week from now, 1,000 prutas." All right, and a week goes by. All right, and afterwards, all right, let's say on day 10, he comes to him and says, "Yo, you never gave me the 1,000 prutas. You still owe me." He says, "Praticha patas money." So the guy who had borrowed the money says, "Well, what are you talking about? I paid you within the week. I paid you on day 3. Ain't on Neman." So it says there, we don't believe that borrower because there's also a presumption that people don't repay loans early. They got a loan for 30 days. Why should they pay at 15, 20 days? They'll wait till 30 days. Even if they have the money, they'll keep the money in the bank. They'll make some interest, something, and then they'll pay. Then most people don't pay their credit cards that are due until the day before they're due, and not earlier. It makes sense. That's the presumption. Relapse for bismano, and would that would not replay loans early, and would that a borrower replay on time? And also, hold on 1 second. One moment. Okay, so I mean that's it. So right now the guy doesn't have. There's no chazaka that or anything that says he would have paid before, so he has to prove that he did pay it. Now wait, now listen, we're gonna get a little sticky here. Abai and Rava differ with Reish Lakish. And it's really interesting. Yeah, Abai and Rava, they lived together, one was adopted and the other, and I think Abai was adopted Rava's family or vice versa, whatever it is. And they're always arguing, but here they're both agreeing. No, it just shows they're always arguing. Abai and Rava are agreeing on the same opinion, though. Abai and Rava both said the borrower is believed, all right, which is the opposite of what we just said, Reish Lakish said. Of it in this, the Farabah goes Zimna, that sometimes a person does pay within the allotted time, doesn't wait for the day he has to pay. Zimnan Dimitramu. Sometimes money falls from heaven, unexpectedly comes to him. He bought a ticket, got unfortunately an inheritance, but all of a sudden the guy's coming to money. So the guy, that's money. Before I go spend it and blow it on something, let me go and let me pay what I owe right now, so I won't be stuck later on. All of a sudden I don't have money. I'm an Ezel pray, and he says I'm going to go and pay it in time. So that goes exactly opposite what Reish Lakish said. All right, we're at the top of Hey Amid Beis. Oh, it's very short. Run, so that he won't buy me later on. We just said that. And here's the proof. The Gemara attempts to refute Reish Lakish by citing our Mishnah. Tnan. It was taught in our Mishnah regarding the rebuilding the first 4 amas of a completed wall. Becheskes shenasan achiabi raya shalom nasan. All right, we assume that neighbor number 2 did pay for half of, the 2 houses of this wall, the first wall that was built. All right, it's assumed that he actually did pay for half of Dalet Amos worth of that. This is before the second wall was built or any other obligation was put on him to pay. Until the other neighbor brings proof that he didn't contribute it. All right, so that shows you that there's a chazaka, there's a standing acceptance that guess what? He did pay all along. All right? Sounds good. Hechidami. What's his case like? If I'll say that the neighbor told the builder, I'll pay you at the allotted time. Pshita b'cheska shenatan. It's obvious that he's presumed to have contributed, and so it's believed. Elalav damalei. Rather, this is not a case where the neighbor said to the builder, Prasicha b'tach zmanei, I paid you within my allotted time. All right, see, so the question is, when we say that we assume or presume that neighbor number two actually did pay 50%, right? When did he pay that? All right. Did he pay it at the end of the building and then paid his 50%? Or did he pay it, during the time that it was being built? Now, anyone who's built the house, I'm sure Hilla will say this as a realtor, all right, that people who have a building loan, all right, they take draws from the bank as things are proven to be being built. So the Gemara is going to discuss here that as every row was being built, because neighbor number one had to buy the supplies to do it, he went to neighbor number two and he says, look, up until Daladamas, up until 6 feet, all right, you're going to owe me 50%. So I just paid, $50 at Home Depot. You owe me $25. And that's how everything went, 50 and 25, 50 and 25. So the fact that he was building the wall showed he was always getting compensation for at least 50% of his costs until Daladamas. We therefore see that it happens that a person pays the creditor within his allotted time in accordance with the view of Abai and Rabbah, and in direct contradiction to the view of Reish Lakish. Remember, Reish Lakish said people don't pay before their allotted time. So Reish Lakish would have said, when would this neighbor number two have paid for this wall, his 50%? Well, when the wall reached Dalanamis, he would then give him a check for half of that. But that's not how the way things work. As we say, Shani Hacha, the Gemara rejects this proof. The case here in the Mishnah is different, and we're going to explain what we just said. The Chol Shafab Shavazimnehu, whereas each and every row of stones is set in place, it is his time to pay. Hence, this case of the Mishnah does not refute Reish Lakish, which we were trying to do, since the neighbor did not claim to have paid him before the loan came due. In other words, we were interpreting this wrong. We were saying that the neighbor paid him before he had to pay him. In other words, before the wall was completed. And then that's not true, because as we just said, he was paying as every draw was made and every bill was coming from Home Depot, every row by row. The Gemara now attempts to discredit the view of Abai and Rabbah. You punch me, I'm going to punch you back. Right, Tashma, come learn the refutation of Abai and Rabbah from the second case of the Mishnah, which stated, Becheskes Shalonatan Nasan Achiavi Raya Shinasan. All right, so that's how we just finished in the Mishnah. He's presumed to have contributed until he brings proof that he didn't contribute. All right. Let's go a little further and we'll get a little confused which case is this. Hechidami, what is this case like? Ilma Damalai. If we say that he said to the builder of the extension, I paid you my share at my allotted time. Amai lo, why does he not believe? Amalav, Damalei. All right, is this not the case? We said, isn't this, we're repeating kind of the reasoning we had before, isn't this initially we thought a case of what he really said is, I paid you during the time period, all right? Within my allotted time. And previously we said that when they say within the allotted time, nobody does that. All right. They only do it at the allotted time. So it appears to be a contraindication. He says, Alma lo abinish para bego zimna. We therefore see that it doesn't happen that the person pays his creditor within his allotted time. It's a refutation of Abai and Rabbah. So the Gemara dismisses this proof. Shanei hacha, we already answered this. The case here differs from that of a regular debt. The Amar, for the builder of the parallel walls, said to himself, Mi yemor de mechayev li rabbanan. Who says that the rabbis were obligate me to contribute towards the extension. Since this liability is not obvious, the halacha presumes they will not pay until he's ordered by the court to do so. Having failed to discredit the opinions of either Reish Lakish or Abaye and Rabbah, the Gemara cites positions taken by various authorities and then renders a final, definitive ruling on the question of early repayment. This is like SCOTUS. Rav Papa, Rav Huna, Berei de Rav Yoshua, Abdei Abaye Rabbah. Rav Papa and Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, acted in accordance with the view of Abaye and Rabbah, who held that one is believed to claim that he paid his debt prematurely. Ma Barav Ashi Avad Reish Lakish. But Ma, the son of Rav Ashi, acted in accordance with the view of Reish Lakish, who held one is not believed to claim that he paid his debt prematurely. The Hilchasa Reish Lakish. But the halacha is the view of Reish Lakish. The halacha presumes that the debtor would not satisfy his obligation before the due date, and so one who claims to have done so bears the burden of proof in proving it. Or he has to show the receipts that he did give 50% to the builder. The Gemara notes how strong is this presumption is. Vavilo mi yasme, and we may even rely on the presumption even to collect from orphans without an oath. I thought we don't collect from orphans. Vafal gab the amamar, even though Master said, Habali para say Yisamin, one who comes to collect the debt from the inherited property of orphans, lo yipra ela b'shua, may not collect without first swearing that he has not been paid. Chazaka lo avid inish the para bego zimna. 1 second. There are none. Nevertheless, there is legal presumption that the person does not pay on the debt before it's allotted time. Hilo, you want to say something?
Tosfot adds that this is for adults.
Oh, we know. All right, yeah, that's what we learned before. No, minor children. Hilo is reminding us, in the name of Tosfos, that we never collect for minor children. We're talking about adults. Thus, if a borrower died before his loan came due, the presumption establishes that the loan has not been paid and so releases the creditor from having to swear to that effect. The Gemara raises a related question. Ibaye lahu. They asked, Tvo la chazman, if a lender sued the borrower for repayment after the time period of the loan had lapsed. All right. So again, let's go to the case. It's day 10, and the loan was supposed to be repaid in 1 week on day 7. And the borrower said, I paid you on day 4. What's the law? Do we apply the logic? Why should I lie and believe the borrower, even in the face of legal presumption, that one does not repay his debts prematurely? All right. So the question is, is there a migo? I guess migo in this case. In other words, he could have always said, remember, this is day 10. Why? And he's saying, I paid you on day 3. He could have said, I paid you on day 7, right? Which is when it was due. Because the guy's claiming on day 10. And we already said people do pay on day 10. On day 7. People do pay when it's due. So he technically an amigo. He could have said, I paid you on the due date, but I didn't lie because I actually paid you on day 3 or 4. So therefore, since he had amigo, we should say we should believe him. I think that's what it's saying. All right, let's go.
So it's a partial, and also we learned before.
Well, he paid what he had to pay, not partial. He actually did pay. Well,
It also that the people paying by their time. And is not paid by the time. He acts like immediately. Like he can't come
Right.
claim against someone 3 or 5 days later.
that would make sense. Yeah, but this is 3 days later. But Hillel's making the comment that in general, if you're owed money, you're not going to show up 2 years later and say, by the way, you never paid me that debt, 2 years ago. So why don't you come back then? Whether you're coming now 2 years later. All right. We technically finished 5, but it's 6:09 and we're behind. Let's try and do a little bit more, or let me try and do a little bit more, and so we can catch up. Dilma, so we're at the top of page 6. Vav. Dilma b'makam chazak al amrinan, or perhaps mali l'shaka, or perhaps in the face of conflicting presumption, we do not apply. Why should I lie? All right, so maybe we can apply the migo, I guess they're saying. So the Gemara attempts to resolve the question with proof from our Mishnah as before. Tashma. All right, come learn. A proof from the Mishnah, which stated, each neighbor is presumed to have contributed his share of the cost of the first 4 amas until the other neighbor brings proof that he didn't contribute. Okay, hechidami. So what's the case? We're giving the kafschus the benefit of the doubt that his neighbor number 2 did actually pay 50% of what he owed up to dollar numbers. So what's the case like? If we say that the builder sued his neighbor for reimbursement after the time it was due, she's coming on day 10, all right, or certainly a later date. Wait, can I keep on going with this? Is it still gonna? Okay, we're still recording. Okay, I hope yeah. All right, should it's still within the hour. If we say that the builder sued his neighbor for reimbursement after the time was due, his money, and the neighbor said, "Nah, I paid you on my allotted time, at my allotted time." In which this is a different case where we're saying he didn't say I paid you on day 3 or 4. He said, "No, I paid you on day 7. I paid you when I was supposed to pay, or I paid you, at each row, or at pshita." It's obvious that the neighbor is presumed to have contributed and is therefore believed, for he claimed to repay the loan at the expected time. Hence, the Mishnah need not teach us the ruling. All right? Rather, is this not a case where the money was demanded after it was due, and the neighbor said to the builder, I paid you within my allotted time. All right, this is a little repetitive what we said before. Before the wall was built to a height of 4 amas, and yet the Mishnah stated the neighbor is presumed to have paid, even though there is a countervailing legal presumption that one does not pay his debt prematurely. So we therefore see that even in the face of a conflicting presumption of Amrina and Malila Shakya, where we apply the logic of why should I lie, and believe him that when he swears that he paid prematurely, all right, this was like the Migo, and this sure, by the way, no, we don't have him swearing now, all right? Because he could have responded with inherently credible claim that he paid when the loan came due. All right. By the way, in the cases here where the repayer or the person that owes the money has to pay, and he said, "I paid partial or this or that," that's called a shvus hesses, I think. There's all these different shvus, but that's the name of it. Okay, it's where he's swearing a partial swearing. It's not like a swearing from the Torah that he's totally saying, no, I paid the whole thing 100%, or I'm not obligated, that this is like a partial swearing, or swearing on a partial part. I don't know, whatever. I'll leave that to the rabbi in Naphtali, who's kind of, all of a sudden his face popped up in front of me. The Gemara rejects this proof as before. Naphtali, are you with me?
100%.
Okay.
Great job, Ronnie.
Okay, Shani, I know about the great job. I'm glad you're there 100%. Shani Acha, the case here in the Mishnah is different. The Chol Shafa, and we said this already, the Chol Shafa in Nehu. Every time they put up another row, that's as if that's the time to pay. And we said that. That's when the builder number 1 gets his bill from Home Depot. That's because he paid Home Depot. And he goes over to neighbor number 2 and says, "Hey, give me 50%. Here's the bill." All right. And hence the neighbors believe, not because of the logic of why should I lie. So it was not because of Migo overcomes the presumption that debtors do not pay prematurely. Rather, since in essence he claimed that he paid after the debt came due, there's no conflicting presumption. And again, we said this already, that actually this case where we wanted to say he's paid early, he was never really saying I paid early, which there is no chazaka to believe that he paid early, but he actually said I paid on time each and every time. All right. I always paid my taxes, kind of like I always paid. All right. Each time I had to. To go, no extensions, I didn't skip a year, this or that. Every year I paid my taxes. Well, you look at me. I do pay my taxes every year, whatever I have to pay. The Gemara attempts a different resolution of the question with proof from the latter case of the Mishnah. Tashma. Okay, come learn the proof from the Mishnah, which stated, Miyaba Amar Shulamala Ein Mechai B'Neso. Okay, so we said in the Mishnah that he's only obligated for the first 4 amas and not above that. Nevertheless, if one neighbor extended the height of the new wall beyond 4 amas at his own expense, samachlo koto acher. All right, this we say, right? And the other neighbor juxtaposed another wall parallel to the first one. The latter must contribute even towards the cost of the extension. Okay, we said this before, but in the recap, wall number 1 was put up. All right, we can only claim 50% to be paid of the first 4 out of, let's say, 6 or 10 amas that was built by neighbor number 2. Neighbor number 2 said he did pay it. He paid it on time every time up until that point. But he didn't have to pay, and we didn't put any claim on him that neighbor number 2 would have to pay anything above 50% of the dollar amas. But once neighbor number 2, this was the case before, built his own wall, for the potential we think of making a hut or a house, all right, even though he didn't put on the rafters or the roof yet, all right, then all of a sudden we come and we make him pay 50% of the extension. Further, the builder of the parallel wall is presumed not to have contributed to the extension. Well, that makes sense because there was never a chazaka that he would have, because we never made the claim he had to. Actually, but let's say this guy was a nice neighbor. You know, good fences make good neighbors. So all of a sudden the fence made him into a good neighbor. He said, you know, I really want to pay 50% of all 6 or 8 or 10 amas, not just dollar amas. And he says, here's the receipt from you, did I actually pay that? Right? That's pretty interesting. Developing its proof, the Gemara analyzes the case. Hechidami. What's this case like? If we say that the builder of the extension sued his neighbor for reimbursement after the latter's allotted time, and the neighbor said to him, I paid you for the extension at my allotted time. In other words, when I completed my second wall, he said, at that time, I actually did pay for the 20% of the additional, which we said earlier on. Once he built the second wall, we presume he liked the first wall in its full height, and therefore he owed 50% of the additional extension on top of the wall. All right. On my law, why is the neighbor not believed that he paid that? He's simply claiming that he paid his obligation at time. Rather, it's not a case where he repaid partich. Money, I paid you my share within my allotted time. And then and the Mishnah states that the neighbor is presumed not to have paid, even though the logic of why should I lie should persuade us that his claim of premature payment is true. Now we bring up the Migo again. Therefore, we therefore see that in the face of a conflicting presumption, Lomrinan, Malila Shakir, we don't say again, amigo, why should I lie? Indeed, here the presumption that debtors do not repay prematurely weakens his actual claim to have done so. And that's why he had to bring proof. I'll go a few more minutes if I can read this. How are we doing? Let's see. Okay, pretty good. Shane Hacha. What? Well, Shane Hacha is where we're up to. It's about a third. Okay, got it? Shana, the case here differs from that of a regular debt. Damo, for the builder of the parallel wall said to himself, who says that the rabbis will obligate me to contribute towards the extension? Since that liability is not obvious, the halacha presumes that he will not pay unless ordered by the court to do so. And hey, if I'm not asked, I'm not paying. Hence, neither case of the Mishnah assists in resolving the question of whether, why should I lie? In other words, the migo applies despite the existence of a conflicting presumption. I know by you at this point I'm a little confused, so let's go weiter a little bit further. Rav Acha attempts to resolve the Gemara's question with proof from another Mishnah. Always helps when you keep on, load them on, bring them on. Let's go. Amalei Rav Acha berei the Rav Ashi. Rav Acha, the son of Rav, said to Rav Ashi, Tashma. All right, come and learn. A proof that we do not apply this logic in the face of a conflicting presumption. For the Mishnah states, Manali biyadcha. We've learned this before. If a man says to his fellow, you owe me a mana, baby, all right? A mana, that's 100 zuzim. You owe me 100 zuzim. That's a lot of money, remember? Because Chad Gadya, he bought a goat for 2 zuzay. All right, he could have bought 50 goats for this. Yeah, that's a lot of goats. All right, Amalei Hain, and the fellow told him, yeah. He says, I agree. Lamacha amalot noile. And the next day, the lender said to the borrower, so give it to me. You know, imam nesati lach bator. If the borrower said, I gave it to you between yesterday and today. Remember you said I owe you? I said, yeah. All right. And I went home, got the money, came to your house, I paid you. Says, guess what? He's believed. We believe him. And he's not liable to pay. All right. This is kind of, I think, maybe alluding to what you mentioned, but it's really, it's within 24 hours. If, however, he said, I hold nothing of yours, he is liable to pay. And what does that mean? In other words, you have nothing in my hand. Who is saying that you have nothing in my hand? I hold nothing of yours. He is so the guy who's supposedly owes the money is saying, I don't owe you anything. I don't have anything of yours. So why do I owe you money? All right. Developing his proof, Rav interprets these two disparate replies. My love is not the difference between the two replies as follows. Nasativ lach dama le praticha bizmane. I gave it to you because that the borrower said to the lender, I paid you at my allotted time. That is when the loan came due. Hence he is believed. And I held nothing of yours. But when he says I have nothing of yours, it means I paid you within my allotted time. I don't understand that. Therefore, before the loan came due, but Katani Chayav, and the Mishnah teaches that in this latter case he is liable to pay, even though he could have said, I paid you on time. That's like amigo. We therefore see that in the face of a conflicting legal presumption, all right, in our case, the debtors do not repay prematurely. We do not apply the logic of why should I lie and believe his claim of premature payment. Okay, so it's saying whenever there's a chazaka present, you can't apply the Gemara's Talmudic logic of migo. You know, I could have said this. You know what? You couldn't have said it because there's a chazaka that says this is the way it is, baby. All right? Are we all right? Or you want to? Okay. The Gemara rejects this proof. Guess what? That's not good. All right, we'll try and fish with this, I guess. This is not the correct explanation of the borrower's second reply. Rather, my ainly v'yadi. What's the meaning of I hold nothing of yours? Lo hayu dvar mi'am. He's saying, you know what? This never happened at all. However, since the borrower had previously acknowledged his debt before witnesses, his denial is ignored. Further, in denying the loan, he is in fact admits that he had not paid. For the master said, anyone who says, I have not borrowed, is like one who says, I have not paid. For one who did not borrow certainly has made no repayment. Thus, since the second reply does not concern premature payment, the Gemara's question remains resolved. Let's stop here. All right, then we're up to Samach Lo Koto. All right. So we got an extra half a page. All right, have a great day, everybody.
Rennie,
right.
thank
See you,
you.
Naftali. Bye-bye, and everybody else that might still
Thank you
be
so much.
around. All right, Daniel. All right, bye-bye.
We have Amram here also. We also have Shmuel.
That's good, good, good.
Yeah,
All
we have a
right.
whole crowd here. So thank you very
Okay,
much.
see you guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You want to close this? I don't know what I did.